a client, we want them to understand why we're doing what we're doing. We're trying to get them the best return on investment, so we're not making any suggestions about updates that won't get them a better return on investment. That's what we're talking about, is how to do that using what people have.
Right, and part of it too, Nancy, is that she'll come in and make painting recommendations. And so while I might know that a room needs to get painted, the color of the paint that they put in the room is something that I don't specialize in, either in what's working right now in time, which is different than 5 years ago, or what might work with the furniture that these clients have in order to make it as warm as possible. So part of it is a staging consultation, but part of it also is like what updates or improvements are worth the money. And we're not going to tell somebody to spend $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 if we don't expect it to be a big net return on their investment. Right. Even like just getting their money back might not be worth it. But if you're going to spend $3,000 or $4,000 and you get 10, 15, 20 back, that's the sort of stuff we're looking for. So. So we can start walking around. I can tell you what I know. They did a full gut rehab in the basement. I know that they put a lot of this flooring in. They also they took down a wall that was between the living room and the kitchen. So there used to be a half wall that came out to about here.
Good decision.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice open concept.
Yep.
And I think a lot of times if we're working with one of your clients, one of the first things I tell people are all the positives of this house. Look at these beautiful hardwoods. They're everywhere. So I'm always happy to see there aren't a lot of carpets. People walk in, they immediately see a nice neutral color, beautiful hardwoods, lots of detail.
Yeah, like even the colors on the walls. A lot of the times we'll come in and we'll see really, really bold colors like reds and, yellows and, strong, bold colors that sometimes we'll talk about like offensive, and it's not like people are like offended, but like it draws the attention away from them looking at the actual house versus like the features and benefits of it.
Right.
So
we talk a lot about what's taste specific. Some people like it, some people don't, versus a more neutral palette that everybody can immediately understand and picture living in.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like they're going to need to do any updating with paint here.
No.
And the beautiful views.
So when you look at a kitchen like this, if they were staying here, and obviously, everything's going to be gone, but what do you typically recommend with somebody that sort of got this? If this is the setup and they're staying here, what would you typically recommend people do?
So we would want to make sure that people notice the attributes of the house: granite, hardwoods, nice stainless features. So we would say remove pretty much everything from the countertops, make sure all the lights are working, and we can really see the things that buyers are looking for. So the hard surfaces, that's a great way to just neutralize it and make sure that everybody notices it's a complete package here. This is a little large, so we would probably want to shrink it so people can imagine walking around it. We would have 4 chairs rather than 6 and make sure people see this beautiful egress to the backyard too.
So when you look at like something like this, because what I'm hearing is that you're taking away a lot of stuff, right? You're like taking away a lot of stuff on the counters and you're sort of condensing the size of furniture. Is that more to eliminate distractions or to make the space feel bigger?
We want people to understand how easy it is to live here, walk around things and feel bigger, feel the scale of things. Looking, for example, at this sectional, I would pull one piece out of it and pull it back so people can see the room rather than this very large sectional, and get a much better sense of the scale of the room. So I often tell your buyers, we're not selling the furniture, we're selling the house. Yep. So when I see, for example, an egress right there that's blocked, I'm going to find a creative way to make sure they see that they have 2 French doors here.
There's a path to...
Yeah. We want to make sure they see all the attributes of the home. And there are a lot here. They have a fireplace that's practically in the kitchen, which is wonderful. So we don't want to block that. We want to get really good pictures. That's how people are buying houses these days. They're looking, and they're looking online way before they even decide to come to your open houses, and they want to see right away, wow, look, there's a fireplace. I can see it all the way from the kitchen.
Yeah. And especially, recessed lights make a huge difference too. There's a lot of recessed lights throughout the house. But yeah, they did that. And then even stepping out onto the porch where I've spent many Sunday watching football, they have fully retractable screens on the sides. They have gas heating units out there. So like I've been out there because these are personal friends of mine. I've been out there for like the Masters, and it's been, 30, 40 degrees outside, and we're all hanging out outside because that thing essentially becomes a room, but then all the screens can go up and the heat can go off and just enjoy it in the summer. So it's kind of, they put a lot of money because they really enjoy outdoor living. So they put a lot of time and attention into the backyard, which is great.
So anything that sets a house off and makes it a little bit different from the neighbors and a little bit more developed is definitely something we'd want to promote. Want to make sure we have it actually fully staged so that people can know this is a year-round situation. You've got the heaters, you've got the TV, you could have a great party out there.
When we look at windows are one of those things where folks will spend an awful lot of money on window dressings, drapes, curtain rods, blinds. And a lot of the times we'll come in, and correct me if I'm wrong, but people have a pretty large attachment to what they put up because of the cost of the money. Seems to always be one of those things where if they buy it and they install it and they spend the money, it's like they have a harder time when you come in and say, maybe that's a definitive color, a definitive style, we should take those down. Would you agree that like window dressings are one of those things that you probably hear the most pushback on?
I definitely do. I try to remind people that we want people to see the view.
Yep.
And the windows and the new windows and the mullions. And by taking down those, they're actually making a really good decision. And those are many things that people would do anyway as they move. So once we're all on that same page, that is a very typical update that and it's very inexpensive.
Right. Especially if you've got the light sort of trim work too, it just brightens everything up along with that natural light that comes in the house. So would you typically recommend people take down blinds like this, or is that doesn't affect it quite as much?
It really doesn't, and that's a value add. That's something they don't have to do. If they want privacy, they can have it, but it disappears visually. Yeah. So when your photographer comes in, they're going to get this beautiful wide shot of all windows with no distractions. Mm-hmm. They're going to see the lights. They're going to see the demi-lune window. So I think the blinds are actually a nice value add for them.
Well, this will be fun to see how you stage the room too. And I mean, again, the way that we're going to market and advertise a home is going to be different than people living in the home, right? Like this large sectional, these folks have 3 kids and they have a lot of guests and they entertain a lot. So having sort of a large sitting space is really, really important. But from the perspective of like how people see value and all that kind of stuff, it's going to be
such a good point. I often tell people the way you live is not the way you stage. This is visual marketing. This is helping people think about how they may live in the home, whether they have kids, pets. We shouldn't know that from the pictures. So it's a very different way of designing. It's sort of the flip side of interior design where you're designing for the homeowners. We're actually designing for the future homeowners.
Yeah. It's funny. I just thought about the difference between like if you're cooking a meal at home, you're in your sweatpants and you don't do your hair, and then you go out to eat. Of course, you're going to get dressed up a little bit. You're going to do your hair. You're going to go out, put on a nice outfit. There's like a difference between like presentation and actual living. So let's continue to take a look around, and I guess let's see if we identify anything that outside of furnishings and stuff that you would do as far as staging. Let's just kind of take a look and see if there's anything that we might want them to do, changing out light fixtures, anything like that. Because these folks are open to sort of doing what needs to get done. Right. So if there is anything, obviously we can point it out to them, and they've got a couple of weeks before they're going to be moving to take care of it.
We might pick out one neutral central fixture there because we have a lot of little lights, and that will help buyers to delineate where the actual eating area is. So what I would do is I would pick something out for them as an option, low cost, but a really good investment just to have one central fixture.
Yep. And we can also talk to them too about if there is, I'm not sure how everything is hung up, but we'll take a look in and see if they need to do any patching on anything big.
But there's no obvious red flags here at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks great.
Awesome.
Carpeting?
Yeah, I think that's for the new house, to be honest with you. Okay. Yeah, because I know that that's what they're going through and doing. But the front door is definitely Sandy new since they bought.
So if they are not planning to paint, these actually work pretty well. For the pictures, we'll have them pulled all the way back. Sometimes these extend and we'll hang the drapes on the outside, and that makes the window look a lot bigger. And I think this might be, yeah.
Yep.
So, sometimes we can do that and just change this view. You want to try it?
Well, even so you're talking something like that.
Right. And so what that does is it shows everybody the woodwork, and it makes the whole windowscape look a little bigger. So I think we can do that. And then knowing that they're removing their furniture, this gives us an opportunity here to do something this is what you would call taste specific. Some people love the French country and others don't. I would do something a little bit longer here.
Right, because this is also and understandably so, but this is a big table for the space too, right?
It is. It's nice to show storage. We would have our own type of storage piece. I never want to block the attributes like this, having a chair rail. We might want to do something with those lights. They're very bright. Either we do something muted, or we might even put a little bit of a chandelier, a shade, very neutral shade, but something that's, a little bit less.
Bright.
They're showing different seating, which is good. So we've got the informal seating for 4. So here we'd want to do 6 or 8 just to show different options. And showing storage when you're staging is a little bit different. Sometimes just a neutral console with something on it demonstrates that there is plenty of room for it.
Right. If you take up the whole room with the table, people come in, and if there's not anything, they'd be like, well, where can I put, because I need a place to put china or storage or something like that. Makes a lot of sense.
Then we might put some more neutral artwork. I usually find one large scale piece works really well to balance. A mirror is a good idea. We might do a round mirror I'm thinking about the medallion here and sort of pulling that down to everything makes sense.
They had laundry here, and they made it into a mudroom and a half bath, which is nice.
So you can see a little bit of deferred maintenance right there on the door. That's definitely something we'd want them to fix, just to repaint. And small fix, but it really helps a lot with the buyer experience, walking in and feeling it's turnkey, don't have to do anything.
A lot of the times too, I'll describe stuff like that as just a distraction. Yep. It takes somebody away. It's not a big deal. Nobody's going to look at that and say, oh my God, now I've got to put thousands of dollars into it. Right. But it's just now they're focusing on that, and they're taking their attention away from thinking about the things that they loved about the house. And so while that's one of those things that has a tremendous return on value on your investment. And it's not so much that you can quantify, all right, you're going to spend $250 on that and you're going to get an extra 10 grand. But it's those things, if it's close, if there's 3 or 4 or 5 of those things and we eliminate those distractions, then I think that the experience of the buyer walking through is just that much better.
Right. Especially on the first floor. This is where people are really forming that very solid opinion of the home. So if you have to make decisions, sometimes I'll tell them, everything on the first floor, and then we can pick and choose a little bit more.
Prioritize that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Great. All right. So as we walk through, obviously we identified a couple of minor things that we're going to do. If there's a lot of things, where do you prioritize that sellers sort of focus their energy and attention?
Pretty much the first floor, and that's where people are forming their opinion. And usually the primary, that's often the buyer, is the person living in the primary bedroom. So Those are the areas that I think are very important. The most important is when they walk in the door. We need everything to have a very strong visual first impression, whether it's removing or adding something, the right artwork, but not distracting them.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. All right, perfect. Let's go down first, and then we'll shoot upstairs. Was some basement that was finished. One of the other nice things is they went through and did most of the major mechanicals. So, they do have some high-end, mechanical features within the property as far as their HVAC systems, some storage, stuff like that. So
great investments. I mean, that's what we want in New England, is additional space and additional functional space. So from a visual standpoint, I would really want to define this is so common. We're all very creative in the way that we live in our homes, but when you're selling it, this is really hard. You want to have a dedicated gym, a dedicated TV watching area, but you don't want things to bleed into each other. So I might edit this a little bit. We never want to block a door, never want to block an egress. So I'm not sure what's in that closet, but if they were living in the home, I might ask them, what are the top 2 pieces of equipment that you really need to have? And let's respectfully put the rest in storage. We don't want to block the window. We don't want to block the door. It would be better to shift everything over this way.
Now, on something like this, where they might take all of the furniture out of the basement, would you normally set up staging down here, or would you recommend that we do even virtual staging just to give people a sense? Like, how do you determine what you want to see happen?
People have put in this much investment into the basement. We want to have something to show for it.
Yep.
So I might do a sectional, very small scale to show that, especially if they're leaving the TV. I don't know if they are, but to give some functionality to this room. Yep. There are lots of angles. There's some beautiful woodwork. So depending on their investment budget, we would want to do something down here to draw people down here and say, oh, I could see myself having a gym. And we've done gyms before for you. We'll do, yep, a few pieces of equipment and a mirror and some suggestion of how somebody might live, because you don't have to stage it the way you'd actually use it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they have a lot here. They have, some nice pieces. They have storage. They have a workspace, a gym space.
Even functionally with all the recessed lights that they've done, and they paid close attention to, even when you do a drop ceiling down in a basement, a lot of the time some of the older drop ceilings, they can give it like a much more dated feel, depending on the tiles that you have. So even swapping out tiles down in the basement can make a big difference to just feel a lot more modern versus those, the textured ones that almost come down and like try to eat you. It's like living in a cave.
Maintenance, I see, this is where Magic Eraser works. There's lots of scuffs, which we all have because people go up and down the stairs. If you go up and down the stairs, I'll point that out to them and tell them these are the areas you would need to focus on. There's a couple of ceiling tiles that could either be replaced or cleaned up. This is what happens, but they've done a really nice job down here. I love they did the ceiling.
Right. Even again, warm colors on the walls and not something that's going to like darken the space. But it gives it a little bit of character, which is really, really nice.
Yeah. And all the built-ins are great. Sometimes I'll just use accessories in a built-in to, games are great. Leave a few games and books, and that just helps your photographer get a nice clean shot that shows there's storage in here. Isn't this great? It's, it doesn't bleed into the sides of the picture and it isn't clear what it is. So it really, sometimes you can just use a few items.
And so on something like this too, we can chat with them about, do they have an intended spot immediately for some of the furniture, some of the games, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Because if they can leave some of it for us to use, that might help too if they don't have an immediate need for it.
right? And I see a full bath. So
Full bath down here as well, yeah.
definitely want to picture that. You know, it's the spots that are being photographed that are so important.
Yep.
But that's a nice surprise to come down and see a full bath. So with a bathroom, you want it to remove all your personal care items. We want to imagine it like a hotel bathroom. So I usually, I'll go through and make sure all the paint is perfect, take out even the garbage cans, any personal care items whatsoever. And then I usually make sure it's a fabric shower curtain because that photographs better, it looks better, fresh, new. These are great. I make sure every light bulb works. That's really important, especially because we're underground in here. And then just fresh white towels, unused, something that really feels hotel-like. And yeah, I think we're good. This is just the area I was talking about before. It's just sort of touching it up. Probably don't even have to repaint it, but you want to make sure that everything is
just a magic eraser type of thing, yeah.
Yeah, and we always say remove all personal pictures because they're going up on MLS, and also make it very hard for a buyer to imagine. So if I see a lot of family pictures, this is a good opportunity to take those down and touch up.
How often do you replace carpet?
It really depends. That's a very good question. This I would not replace. This looks like it's in pretty good shape. If it is in the front foyer, yes, it's a very good investment. That's where you're walking in the door. If we have dated carpet, or we have damaged carpet in the front, that's a good place to put an investment.
It also really depends too, correct me if I'm wrong, but it depends on where in the house too. Right. Like she just said, the foyer is really, really important. But if there's a prominent room, like a great room,
yeah,
and it depends on the condition of the carpet too. Yeah. Like I always talk to folks about getting the house to sort of a certain level, right? Like you're not going to go through if everything in a house is like brand new and then there's one bathroom that's dated from the 1980s, then it makes sense to invest $5,000 or $10,000 into updating the bathroom. Right. But it makes no sense to update that bathroom if 90% of the rest of the house is dated. Or should I replace the kitchen cabinets? And it's like, well, everything else is kind of like dated or deferred maintenance or hasn't been updated. So if you do that, you're not going to get the people that will actually pay the extra price for that upgraded feature, right? Because those people that are going to pay a premium for everything being done new, brand new, and just looks amazing, if 1 out of 12 components is updated, that buyer's not going to be interested. They're only interested if 12 out of 12 are done. So get it to a certain level and then market it to the appropriate buyer. Don't try to bring in a buyer that's going to pay a premium for a fully renovated house just by like putting lipstick on a pig.
Right. Just address those issues that are really deferred maintenance or something people feel they have to do right away. Make them feel they can move right in and then they can personalize it.
For sure. And I'm glad I could use a lipstick on a pig when a client is not here. All right. When Lauren goes like this, she wants me to talk. I'm not sure what she wants me to talk about, but let's go upstairs.
Let's talk. All right.
So 5 bedrooms upstairs, 2 full baths. The original layout of this house, I don't think that they finished the area over the garage. These guys bought it maybe 10 years ago. They replaced the carpets when they came in. Obviously, they did painting everywhere. So most of these, I think that they did do a lot of built-ins, both in the closet, and then I think they did this here in Maisie's room.
Oh, these are great.
Yeah.
That's another one of those features their neighbors might not have if they were selling. These are investments that people are looking for, and they may not have even thought of it until they move in. And, typically we wouldn't stage every single room, but this gives a nice picture. So if we just touch these up, put a few accessories, you'll get a wonderful picture for your listing. And they really don't need to do anything. And there's, this is really charming, but it's also very taste specific and very large. Yep. So fortunately that's going to leave. There'll be a nice access to the closet because buyers want to open both doors. Yep. So we never want to block them. So these two pieces of furniture, if they were staying, we would be removing them or moving them somewhere else. So this is great. And when your photographer comes in and stands in the corner, they get a beautiful picture of 3 windows, a built-in and a double closet. Yep. That's a lot for this size of bedroom. That's really valuable. And they have a lot of recessed lighting. So this is not a room that has to do anything. Really just, move things out, get the carpet all nice and cleaned up, and maybe touch up a few little things here. And here too is where I might put the home seller. I might ask them, can you leave us a few books, or we'll bring in a few books, just something to make it very clear to people, this is a built-in, they get to keep it.
Right. Now, on the scale of important rooms, if the homeowners were staying here and selling, would you say that this is on the lower end of priorities as far as editing the room and making it staged as possible, like comparative to other rooms, like the secondary bedrooms? The secondary,
I want every room to look great for your buyers, but yes, I think it's important on the scale of things a little bit lower.
Yeah.
And just showing what you get. When you move in, you get built-ins, you get the double doors, you get triple windows.
And what's funny is that, so most of the time when you do your staging consultation, you and Sandy come through the house and you give the recommendations, you send them a report. And then I go over the report with the seller. And it's funny because most of the time I will tell them, a lot of the times it's hard to, like, they can do work in their room in sort of common space, but sometimes the kids will have a really hard time kind of changing over their space. And what I tell folks when they're sort of prioritizing everything, like the kids' bedrooms are going to be the kids' bedrooms. And on the grand scheme of things, yes, perfect world, let's get everything staged perfectly. But if it's going to be a battle with I understand the dynamic of moving in general, if they're on board, not on board, and then to get them to change their space sometimes is like the most difficult thing that you're going to do. And so while it's good to get everything edited and staged up properly, probably the secondary bedrooms, especially kids' bedrooms, like if we need to avoid photographing a bedroom to keep a kid happy, to keep a parent happy, and keep moving things forward, that's probably the space that's least important, at least from my perspective on resale.
Agree.
Yeah.
And also when I am talking with your clients, we have these discussions too, is like, is there something here that you need to keep for your child, or for, sometimes people have parents who are living with them, will say, if that's important to you, let's work around that. Tell me what your priorities are for this room.
Wonderful. So I wanted you to take a specific look at the primary suite, because it is typical of one of these larger colonials where they finished the area over the garage, and you have sort of a very large 500 square foot room that sometimes even for homeowners is really hard to stage and understand how they would use the space.
Yeah, this is large. So I would say they have the bed perfectly positioned right between the windows. That's a really nice visual. I would neutralize it a little. What we bring in might be a little bit different than this. We might contrast the wall color with a fabric headboard, something light that matches the window treatments. And then, this is absolutely one of those rooms people might want to think about. This recessed area would be a great area for a desk. We might do 2 accent chairs and a table, something that really helps them understand it. We would definitely want them to remove these.
Yeah. And so because I know them personally, this is the stage for their kids' performances. So that those are the curtains for the performances. They get ready behind there, and then they open the curtains and they perform. So that's why that is there specifically. But yeah, again, without that context, it's hard for people to understand and relate to that. So yeah, that would be one of those things that we would suggest that they take.
That's a great explanation of selling a house versus dwelling within a house. That's a great owner-occupied modification so that their family can use it, but buyers will not understand this, and they will wonder why it's there. And, it's blocking views. This is really one of the selling points. And as we've talked about, it's often the person who lives in this bedroom that's buying the house, and they want to see, wow, I get to wake up and look at this gorgeous view. So with this removed, it becomes a really elegant seating area.
Nice.
And that's just a little bit of staging right there.
Awesome.
And then they have a few little things, deferred maintenance. They have a couple of those, I noticed, just replacement.
Light fixtures and
light
some
fixtures.
bulbs and stuff like that. Yeah.
And we might use these so that they don't have to repaint. We could easily use these shelves for some more neutral artwork.
Yep.
I'm glad that they have a king-size bed. That's the right proportion for this room. And that's what we would do.
So in all likelihood, if they were keeping the furniture here, we would probably neutralize the bedding and keep the bed, obviously,
Yeah.
if they were staying here.
Yes,
Yeah.
agreed.
Yep.
Something they need to contrast. This is a very neutral palette. So there's a balance between that and getting a good picture with a little bit of contrast between the floor color, the wall color, and the wood color they've chosen for their personal furniture. So that's where we do something very light and neutral.
Cool.
It's a beautiful space.
Awesome.
Probably on the other side. And that's a walk around. You know, that's something that when I'm working with your sellers, we just walk around together and I say, oh, you know, what were you thinking here? I'm guessing it was to put up these light fixtures, but they didn't get a chance to repair them all.
Yep.
So that's super easy to do. And then I walk around and I show them too, this is how a photographer will take a picture. It'll be a little bit different than you think. We'll stand in the corner. We'll get a wide shot. We'll try to get as many attributes as it can. I mean, you have these two incredible closets, a Palladian window, views, you know, you've got the high ceilings. So I actually will sometimes say, if you want to take out your phone, you can see what we'll be looking for. And we don't want to block any of those attributes. And closets last, because we don't take pictures of the insides of closets usually.
When you're looking at a home, don't forget to take a look at the backyard from the second floor window. A lot of people will look at the backyard from ground level, but you'll get a much better perspective. If you take a peek out of the second floor window, you can get a much different perspective of the backyard, and you'll be able to see the space, and you'll be able to evaluate like what the backyard has to offer a lot better from the second floor. It's just like taking a zoomed out look of this space. So anytime you're seeing a house, make sure to stop at the windows on the second floor and take a look at what the space looks like outside. So yeah, second floor laundry in the master. So coming to the primary bath, obviously there's, you know, bold colors in here. The homeowners, you know, kind of battled with it year after year. And one of the reasons that they decided to make a move was that there were certain things, you know, the kitchen and the bathroom, when they looked at upgrading everything and then where they wanted to be, it just didn't make a whole lot of sense to go through the entire renovation process based on how long they wanted to be in the home. So when you look at a property like this that has a really sort of bold and definitive color palette, how do you soften it up? Like, what would you do in this specific case to like...
Right, to neutral. Well, usually what I do is try to neutralize the color with a lighter color. So we would pull in some creamy whites. There are a few deferred maintenance things going on, like the ceiling here, that we'd want to have them repaint that. And we have some modern chrome. We have a neutral top. So we're going to take this away. Sometimes I will put a carpet down just to absorb some of the color. And I'll choose something light with a little bit of blue right here. It just helps people conceptualize what they might do going forward if they wanted to change the tile out. And the rest would be about creating, sometimes I'll find a piece of artwork that pulls a little bit of blue up onto the wall so it looks a little more considered, more very thoughtful design. Yep. We planned it this way. We like these colors. This is how you can live here. So it's about softening it with some textures too.
Yeah. So that's interesting because I generally speaking, when we stage a bathroom, you're taking everything off of the floor. And so it's rare to hear you say, put something down on it, but it does make a lot of sense because you've got sort of a lot of darker, bold colors. You've got the dark brown, you've got sort of the black, granite, and then you've got the really deep blue. So, you know, that's a lot of dark. So if you can lighten it up, especially in the largest section of this dark space, yeah, I think that would really lighten it up and give them a sense of what it would be like if they went through and did the floor.
Right.
So that's great.
Yep.
Yeah, awesome.
Not too much to do. Just removing things adding a little bit of softening decor and connecting the colors a bit.
Perfect. Right, great.
So using accessories is important in styling a kitchen because it helps buyers to notice the things we want them to. So what I would do once we are all ready to go is I'd make sure I had a strong color. It might be a plant, it might be canisters, and I'll put it where I want people to look. So I might put one item here to get them to think about that. This is the baking area. So I do something, might do a cookbook or some canisters here, depending on the size of the counters. I don't want to clutter them. I don't want to have any overflow. This tells buyers, oh, they don't have enough space. So I want lots of space around things. But in pictures, if we put a few items on either side, it helps people see this is the baking area. Oh, I'm looking here. I can look outside. And particularly in a home like this that has a beautiful exterior, I definitely want them to notice that. And the rest we leave open. Sometimes we'll do a bowl of one colored fruit or something, but this island isn't quite big enough for that. So we would leave this as is.
And while we're at it, when we talk about like looking exterior from interior, a lot of the times we'll talk to folks about, making sure that the windows are very, very clean. But also, especially with older houses, the ones that were built in the 80s and 90s, a lot of the times the window screens, if they have older windows, the window screens will be like you can see more of the window screen than you can of the exterior. And so if you go through and you take those out and just remove them altogether, then you're going to get a much more light coming through, but you're also going to be able to see the backyard a lot more clearly. So that visual inside to out is really, really important.
Absolutely. And that's this particular house. That's what this is all about. This kitchen is part of their entertaining area. So we definitely want to promote that. We remove everything here, clean the windows really well. I even do little things like turn seams around so that in pictures they aren't a distraction.
I know I get distracted by seams. All right. So last part of this is just kind of what we suggest folks do on the exterior. So if we want to take a peek out back, especially with this one having this is another one of those sort of little deferred maintenance items, just touching up some of the paint.
Well, this is spectacular. This is what so many buyers are looking for and they don't already have. So, this is just a little bit of deferred maintenance with Rust-Oleum here. But if they have the furniture and it's not snowing, I would put some kind of seating here to help people understand, but not clutter it. This is a beautiful deck. It's a Trex deck, so it doesn't need any maintenance. And what we don't want to do is ever block the view. So we don't want to put furniture or fire pits or anything against the railings. We want people to look all the way through. Sometimes people will say, should I put my umbrella on the table? We never put the umbrellas on the table. We want people not to see the table, but to see the yard. And this is a spectacular fire pit. If they had Adirondack chairs or some way to brighten it up and show people that, I would put them out there.
Yeah, and I think we do have some stuff. We took photos, but the beauty of even this is that they've got this adjustable roof.
Wow.
So the roof will come down and create a full roof over here. So even if it's raining or snowing, it adjusts and it'll let the light through to, sort of warm up the space if they want it. And then they have all of the retractable on the sides. They have you can see this one because it's on the inside, but this will come down and it'll fully screen in the entire porch. So you can flip the heat on, put the screens down, it'll essentially create a room out here. So you've got a roof, you've got walls, the heat's out here. They even thought about, bringing the natural gas to connect right to the grill up here.
And I love that you got some pictures while it was fully functional. And that really helps people to see that. This is the reason some people will buy a house, is that something like this is really special.
And they've got a Generac generator system on the side. So, full house power if the power goes down. The staircase up to the top was installed because his brother lives on the other side of that hill and their 4 kids go back and forth all the time. So obviously, hopefully new buyers are friendly with with his brother.
But even the way they positioned the play structure to the side was a really smart decision. So if you don't have children or you don't need that, you still have a beautiful full yard.
Yeah, it's a really it's really beautiful. I'm glad we got photographs of everything. All right, so from right here, we finished the staging walkthrough, and I know that this one's a little bit different because the homeowners aren't here. But typically from this stage, at this point, what would you do from here?
So I would do a write-up.
Yep.
I'll detail all the things that we talked about, give them a list of recommendations. They'll review it with you and pick and choose.
Yep.
And I will create a staging plan for those areas that I know buyers really need to see, which in this case would be the first floor and the primary.
Yeah.
And then just a few little suggestions on what to touch up in the basement and the extra bedrooms, and they're good to go.
That's awesome. So we really appreciate you coming out and obviously, doing this video for us. Our intention is to show sort of before and after, just give some of the homeowners that are either considering working with us, but also just kind of viewing and getting ideas if they're working in an area that we don't provide our services, what might be available for them. Because a lot of people don't know that this is part of what, if you're hiring a professional real estate agent, this is sort of par for the course for us. Bring in a staging consultant, figure out what we can do to help homeowners not have to make decisions. It's not that they don't have to execute and do things, but some of the hesitation from people is that they just don't know what to do. And if you're coming in and you've only sold 3, 6, 10 houses before, you're not really well equipped. So having you here is just an incredible value for us and for our clients. We appreciate everything that you do for us. So thank you very much. All right.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to work with you and your team.
Excellent. All right, guys. Well, if you have any questions on staging, certainly reach out to us. Like or comment in the posts. Certainly, if you're looking for Nancy's information, she is a wonderful asset, not only for us, but for a lot of real estate agents, as well as homeowners. So if you need her information, hit us up. We'll send you her info. And thanks for following along.